you did mention coding, and actually, let me ask you this: how much of a technical background, or how much of the coding background helped you, or what advice around maybe coding and the technical background would you share with people aspiring to get into a PM role?
My suggestion around gaining technical aptitude, which I know is can be a really broad spectrum, but is to gain as much of it as possible
Yeah.
because it can only help. Now, I will say my disclaimer here is that that is my personal opinion and what I've observed from my own experience. But I've seen some content out there and heard some hiring managers say, sometimes I like to look for the less technical product managers because it's just sort of a different way of thinking and different sort of view.
Yeah.
And so some hiring managers may like that, but I can tell you from personal experience that it's been immensely helpful to have at least a little bit of a technical background because I can sit down with developers and say, hey, can you just show me the code? And it's not that I'm doing code reviews
Yeah.
for them, but I can see what's going on and I can understand and I can ask informed questions about some of how they decided to execute it or how we might implement something. And so I don't feel totally in the dark so that
Yeah.
if something comes up 3 months from now, once we've released this feature and it's causing all these issues, um, either I was able to catch that in the beginning with the engineers or we're at least informed about what's going on collectively. And I'm not saying, oh, I didn't know it was implemented that way.
Yeah.
So it's empowering, I think, is probably the key word there.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've learned that it also helps build trust with the development team. Just coming from being new into the role, I'm 4 months into a PM role, and being able to speak to the code and the programming, and more so even just being curious around what they're doing and asking informed questions, I think really helps accelerate the progress of your team. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. I think you're spot on. And just to sort of tack on to that, I think what you just described there is also it's helpful because engineers want to be listened to like everybody else. And so if you can be curious and ask those informed questions and have an exchange, have that informed exchange with shared knowledge, that's really powerful. And it tells the engineers and anyone else, okay, I feel heard. And I think that's really important in a workplace and anywhere.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening to this, during the interview process, if you have a company or an organization that you're looking to work at, what I did early on is I checked out the engineers and developers LinkedIn profiles, and I kind of saw what programming language that they used, and then I went and kind of learned that before the interview process. So I don't know if that helped or hurt, but I don't think it could hurt you to do some research around the language that your team is using or going to
Yeah,
use.
great idea.